Have you ever walked out of Woolworths or Coles, looked at a receipt that cost you a week's rent, and felt like you were being quietly, systematically robbed? You are not losing your mind, and you are certainly not alone. Raw wholesale prices for agricultural commodities have absolutely crashed over the last 12 months. Cocoa, coffee, global wheat, and citrus crops have tumbled off their record highs. Yet you are holding a bar of chocolate that somehow shrank by 20 grams while climbing 50 cents in price, and a carton of orange juice that costs more than a decent craft beer. The supermarkets and multinational food conglomerates are raking in record margins, pocketing the difference, and praying you never actually check the underlying trade data. By the time you finish watching this video, you will know exactly how the big grocery giants manipulate shelf prices, how to spot the hidden formulation downgrades hiding in your pantry right now, and how to protect your household budget against the next wave of artificial inflation. We are going to crack open 12 everyday staple foods, exposing the exact corporate tricks keeping prices sky high, and I will show you the precise, long-keeping items you need to stock up on today before the next real supply shock hits the shelves. Pay close attention, because the most egregious offender on our list is an item sitting in almost every Australian fridge right now, and it turns out to be absolute proof of this entire corporate squeeze. Before we start naming the corporate culprits, we need to lay down the basic mechanics of how food pricing and corporate greed actually interact on Australian supermarket shelves. When global commodity costs spike because of a drought or a frost, food manufacturers rush to pass those cost increases onto you within days. They slap bright yellow price hike tags on the shelf, blame international supply chains, and watch their profit margins expand. But when those same commodity prices collapse on global exchanges, an uncanny silence falls over the boardrooms. The retail price stays glued to the ceiling. The industry calls it price stickiness, but in plain English, it is pure margin capture. The corporate strategy relies on the fact that once your brain accepts paying $7 for an everyday staple, you will keep paying $7 long after the actual cost of ingredients has dropped by half. To make matters worse, while they keep the shelf price artificially inflated, they simultaneously downgrade the actual product in your hand. This is where skimpflation comes into play. Instead of using pure cocoa butter, pure fruit juice, or genuine cold-pressed oils, food engineers tweak the recipes behind closed doors. They swap out expensive natural ingredients for cheap palm oil, high fructose syrups, added water, and synthetic emulsifiers. It is the food equivalent of buying a brand new German sedan, opening the bonnet, and discovering the factory swapped the engine for a lawnmower motor while charging you full price for the badge. The worst part of this entire system is that Australian consumers are trapped in one of the most concentrated supermarket duopolies on the face of the planet. When two major players control the vast majority of the national grocery market, traditional competitive pressure simply evaporates. If neither giant decides to drop the shelf price to reflect falling wholesale costs, the consumer has nowhere else to turn. They can quietly pocket millions in excess margins every single week, claiming that overheads and freight are to blame, while their underlying input costs are sliding backwards. Understanding this mechanism is your ultimate shield. Once you learn to look past the slick marketing, the greenwash packaging, and the fake farm names printed on the front of the packet, you stop paying for corporate profit margins and start paying for actual nutrition. So let us pull back the curtain, dive into the aisles, and tear apart the worst offenders sitting on Australian shelves right now. Let us start with number 12, extra virgin olive oil. 2 years ago, olive oil was the poster child for Australian food inflation. At Coles and Woolworths, a standard 500ml bottle of imported Spanish or Italian oil jumped from $6 to well over $14, and home brand extra virgin followed it straight up. The cause was genuine. A brutal multi-year drought across Spain and southern Europe, where over half the world's supply originates. But then the weather turned, harvests recovered through 2025, and global wholesale commodity prices plummeted. By early 2026, raw Spanish oil costs had given back most of their gains. Yet when you walk into Aldi or Woolies today, that bottle is still sitting near its peak price. The supermarkets are pocketing the massive margin gap while wholesale costs sit low. But do not expect this price floor to last. Early agricultural data shows fresh heat waves hitting European groves, putting a hard bottom on production costs. Since unopened extra virgin olive oil keeps sealed for up to 2 years, this quiet pricing lull is your exact window to stock up on dark glass bottles before the next climate spike hits the local shelves. Moving to number 11, tinned tomatoes. Sitting right alongside olive oil in the Mediterranean supply chain, tinned tomatoes face the exact same climate pressures. Most value tins sold across Australian supermarket chains originate from high heat regions in southern Italy. A basic 400-gram tin that used to cost 80 cents now sits over $1.50 for branded options like Mutti. Quality varies wildly behind those glossy labels depicting Italian countryside scenes. Independent testing shows cheap value-range chopped tomatoes are routinely bulked out with excess tomato juice and watery, inferior fruit that breaks down into starchy mush. Genuine Italian plum tomatoes like San Marzano carry strict protected origin certifications. They hold their acidity and natural sugars, giving you a rich pasta base for a fraction of the cost of prepared sauces. With a shelf life of over 2 years, stocking up on certified whole plum tomatoes at Aldi or Coles while prices are stable protects your pantry against the next inevitable European export price hike. Number 10 on our list brings us to the single worst offender in the confectionery aisle: block chocolate. Chocolate is the absolute textbook example of corporate skimpflation in Australian retail. At the end of 2024, global cocoa futures skyrocketed to record highs after disease and weather wiped out West African crops. Manufacturers like Cadbury and Nestle immediately pushed block prices to $6 or $7, while quietly trimming weights from 180 grams down to 160 grams. Fast forward through 2025 into 2026. Raw cocoa futures have crashed by more than 50%. Have Cadbury or Whittaker's dropped their prices or given you back those 20 grams? Not a chance. Corporate owners like Mondelez banked the collapse in commodity costs and kept the reduced packet sizes. Worse still, lower-tier milk chocolates continually replace pure cocoa butter with palm oil and extra sugar. If you are itching to check your own pantry right now, hit subscribe, because the corporate cost-cutting only gets rougher from here. Protect yourself by checking the unit price per 100 grams on the Woolies shelf edge, and buying high-percentage dark block chocolate, which stores perfectly in a cool cupboard for well over a year. Number 9. Coffee. Coffee followed the exact same trajectory as cocoa. Severe frost and drought across Brazil and Vietnam pushed both Arabica and Robusta wholesale prices to extreme highs through 2024. Australian shoppers saw instant coffee jars like Nescafe Gold and Moccona shoot past $20, while whole beans at local roasters escalated quickly. Global commodity prices have since retreated significantly due to massive Brazilian yield recovery, easing input costs across the supply chain. Yet retail jar prices in Coles and Woolworths remain stubbornly high. Forecasters are already flagging a developing El Niño pattern that threatens upcoming crops, meaning this current pricing lull won't last long. Sealed instant jars keep perfectly for over 18 months, while vacuum-sealed whole beans preserve their essential oils for months. Stocking up on your daily coffee staple during supermarket half-price catalog sales right now locks in your daily caffeine fix before global supply shocks send retail prices soaring again. That brings us to number 8. Chilled orange juice. This is the item you physically cannot stock up on, and it serves as absolute proof of corporate margin gouging. The global citrus industry has been devastated by citrus greening disease, an incurable bacterial infection ravaging groves in Florida and South America. Raw crop values skyrocketed in 2024, driving cartons of daily juice and nudie to unprecedented retail prices in Australia. Over the past year, wholesale futures have more than halved as global demand adjusted and substitute supplies stabilized. But check the Woolies chiller display today. A 2-litre carton of juice is still priced at historic highs. Supermarket buyers and juice bottlers simply kept the price ceiling intact to maximize profit margins. Long-life UHT juice is heat-degraded junk, and fresh juice spoils within weeks, making it impossible to hoard. The smart action here is simple. Stop buying commercial carton juice altogether. Buy fresh, whole Australian Navel or Valencia oranges directly from local fruit markets or Harris Farm. They are cheaper per unit of actual fruit, far higher in natural fiber, and hit back against a supply chain that refuses to pass wholesale savings onto your wallet. Number 7. Long-grain white rice. Rice is a critical store cupboard staple whose local shelf price can double overnight based on decisions made thousands of kilometers away. When India, the world's dominant rice exporter, imposed strict export bans to protect its domestic market, global trading prices spiked, sending 5-kilo bags of sun-white rice at Coles and Woolworths to record highs. India has since lifted those export restrictions, and global trade prices have settled back to normal levels. This brief window of trade stability is your signal to store supply. White rice, when kept dry and sealed in airtight containers, has a shelf life that extends almost indefinitely. Brown rice, by contrast, contains natural bran oils that turn rancid within months, making it a poor choice for long-term storage. Adding a couple of bay leaves to an airtight tub keeps pantry weevils away. Buying 10-kilo bags of long-grain white rice at Asian grocers or during supermarket half-price specials provides cheap, reliable food security long before the next foreign export ban hits local trade. Number 6. Dried pasta. Moving back to wheat-based staples, dried pasta carries the exact same climate vulnerability as Mediterranean produce. High-quality pasta relies entirely on durum wheat semolina, sourced heavily from climate-stressed growing regions in Europe and North America. Global grain prices have been whipped around by geopolitical conflicts and extreme weather over recent years, pushing standard 500-gram packets of Barilla and San Remo up by 30 to 50% in Australian stores. Pasta keeps exceptionally well for up to 2 years without any degradation in quality. The key distinction when buying is checking the label for 100% durum wheat semolina and bronze dye extrusion. Bronze dye pasta features a rough, chalky texture that clings to sauce, unlike cheap Teflon extruded options that turn slimy when boiled. Securing several kilos of premium bronze dye pasta from Aldi or local Italian delis while prices are stable gives you a versatile, dirt-cheap foundation for dozens of quick household meals. Number 5. Tinned fish. Tinned seafood is the ultimate indestructible store cupboard protein. Tinned tuna, sardines, and salmon face relentless upward price pressure due to rising diesel costs for fishing fleets, strict marine catch limits, and import tariffs on overseas processors. Brands like John West and Serena have systematically raised their shelf prices across Woolworths and Coles over the past 2 years. Despite the cost pressures, tinned sardines and mackerel remain among the absolute cheapest sources of essential omega-3 fatty acids and calcium available in the supermarket. Choice independent reviews consistently highlight the importance of reading the fine print on these tins. Avoid fish packed in cheap, highly processed sunflower or vegetable oil. Stick strictly to spring water or extra virgin olive oil. Always check the label for sustainable catch methods like pole and line or MSC certification to ensure you aren't funding destructive bottom trawling. Marking the purchase year on the lid with a felt pen ensures you rotate your stock efficiently, keeping a nutrient-dense, shelf-stable protein source ready for years. Right, here comes the part that made watching this far worth it. We have dragged the corporate cost cutters through the mud, so now let us look at the genuine, uncompromising products sitting on Australian shelves that actually give you real value for your hard-earned money. Starting with our 4th staple spot, tinned and dried pulses. While processed canned meals have shot up in price, basic pulses like chickpeas, lentils, and kidney beans remain the most underappreciated budget lifesavers in the entire supermarket. Brands like Mackenzie's offer dried red lentils and split peas across Coles and Woolworths for a pittance. Dried red lentils require 0 overnight soaking, cook down in 20 minutes, and bulk out soups, curries, and stews while doubling the fibre and protein content. If you prefer the absolute convenience of tinned options, Aldi's Romano range or Woolworths home brand organic pulses cost roughly $1 a tin. They are packed simply in water with a pinch of salt, offering pure, unadulterated nutrition. The value ratio here is unbeatable. A single dollar tin of chickpeas delivers more usable dietary protein and gut-healthy fibre than $3 worth of ultra-processed sausages. Stocking a mixed box of dried lentils and tin beans gives you a virtually indestructible food foundation that will easily sit in your pantry for up to 2 years without losing its nutritional value. Number 3 brings us to real block butter. Dairy prices have fluctuated wildly across Australia, with feed costs and energy prices pushing spreadable tub products into ridiculous price territory. But here is the critical distinction we uncovered in our dairy investigation. Spreadable tubs like Western Star Soft or Devondale Spreadable are cut with up to 30% vegetable oils like canola or rapeseed oil. You are literally paying premium dairy prices for cheap seed oils whipped with water. Instead, turn your attention to pure, unblended block butter like Western Star Original Salted Butter or Aldi's Beautifully Butterfully Block Butter. The ingredient list is refreshingly short: pure Australian cream and salt. No industrial emulsifiers, no seed oil dilution, and no added water. While a 500-gram block sits around $7, its secret weapon is the home freezer. Real block butter wraps tightly and freezes perfectly for up to 9 months, with 0 degradation in taste or texture. When you spot a genuine block butter on sale or discounted at IGA or Coles, buying 4 or 5 blocks and throwing them straight into the freezer lets you bank real, high-quality dairy before the next energy-driven price surge hits the dairy cabinet. Number 2 on our list is genuine aged hard cheese. Just like butter, the cheese aisle is flooded with bland, industrial commodity blocks sold under misleading labels like tasty or extra tasty that have barely been aged for a few months. They are rubbery, mild, and melt into a greasy mess. To get real value and authentic flavour, look for genuine long-aged cheddars like Cobram Estate adjacent regional blocks, Ashgrove Tasmanian cheddar, or Bega Heritage Reserve aged cheddar, available at Woolworths and Harris Farm. A proper mature cheddar has been naturally aged for 12 to 18 months. This extended aging process reduces moisture, concentrates natural glutamate flavours, and gives the cheese a long, natural shelf life in your fridge. An unopened block of true aged cheddar easily lasts for months in the crisper drawer. If you need to preserve it even longer, grate it up and freeze it in airtight bags. It will be ready to melt over bakes or pasta dishes whenever you need it. You pay slightly more per kilogram for aged cheddar, but because the flavour profile is so intense, you end up using half as much per meal compared to cheap, rubbery commodity cheese. Finally, sitting at number 1, pure, traceable Australian honey. In a grocery market plagued by global food fraud, honey is the ultimate test of supply chain integrity. Overseas lab testing has repeatedly exposed imported honey blends cut with cheap C4 cane sugar and rice syrups, despite wearing patriotic packaging. But true, unadulterated Australian honey is a marvel of nature. It literally never expires. Jars of pure honey found in ancient tombs remain perfectly edible after thousands of years. The key is sourcing genuine, single-origin Australian honey. Look for trusted local brands like Beechworth Honey, Capilano's 100% Australian range, or independent local beekeepers at Harris Farm markets and local farmer markets. Pure Australian eucalyptus or floral honey contains natural antibacterial compounds, rich antioxidants, and complex floral notes that fake sugar syrups cannot replicate. If your honey turns cloudy, thick, or hard over time, do not throw it away. That is natural granulation, the ultimate hallmark of raw, unadulterated honey. Placing the jar in a bowl of warm water for 10 minutes restores it to a smooth liquid instantly. It is a forever staple that completely bypasses corporate food manipulation. To protect your wallet on your next trip to Woolworths, Coles, or Aldi, keep these 6 concrete rules in mind. First, always check the small unit price per 100 grams or 100 millilitres on the shelf tag, rather than judging value by the box size. Second, inspect the ingredient list on dairy items, immediately putting back any butter or cheese that lists added canola, palm, or vegetable oil. Third, look for specific country of origin stamps or protected geographic certifications on tinned goods and oils, ignoring vague marketing claims like traditional style or packed in Australia. Fourth, skip reconstituted fruit juices and concentrates, choosing whole fresh produce that delivers real nutrition without corporate processing markups. Fifth, choose bronze dye extruded pasta and whole plum tinned tomatoes over Teflon extruded options or watery chopped tins that lack substance. Sixth, verify the exact cocoa percentage on chocolate packaging to ensure expensive cocoa butter has not been replaced with cheap industrial fats. The modern supermarket ecosystem is deliberately engineered to extract maximum profit by capitalizing on consumer habit and brand familiarity. Multinational food corporations rush to raise shelf prices during global supply panics, then quietly hold those inflated price ceilings long after raw commodity costs collapse. Overcoming this corporate squeeze requires a fundamental shift in how you shop. Ignore front-of-pack marketing graphics entirely and evaluate every product solely by its raw ingredients and unit price. Shopping on hard evidence is the only reliable way to protect your household budget from artificial inflation. Thank you for spending your time with us today to uncover the truth behind supermarket pricing. If this investigation gave you actionable insights, please share it with a friend or family member. You definitely know someone who is struggling with their weekly grocery bill and deserves to know where their money is actually going. Leave a comment down below and tell us which of these 12 staples is sitting in your pantry right now. Stay tuned for our next investigation into supermarket home brand secrets, where we expose who really manufactures those cheap yellow label products. Shop on evidence, demand real value, and never pay premium prices for corporate cost cutting.